Conquered. Now what about 19-2? It's still kind of low, but the thing is, on level 19, you have to, like, immediately be having the piece go in the trajectory you want. Otherwise, it just won't get there with DAS. Oh, shoot. All right, I feel like I got a little lucky there. Because now if we go up to 19-3, I mean, shoot. Ugh. I really have very few options just with DAS. See, the only time the game's throwing me a bone here is right at the beginning where there's a little bit of a pause so I can put the first piece kind of where I want. But after that, like, oh my goodness. Lord help you. 5 lines. 5 lines. Level 19, height 3. It's not even bad for me. So that's my chart, placing the top modes I'm really comfortable on as 15-4, 18-3, and 19-1. A seasoned competitor is able to do better. World Championship veteran Josh Tolles has a training regimen on his YouTube channel.
And this is what you're gonna wanna do. You need to master these skills to be an elite player. You want to be able to beat 15-5, 18-4, and 19-2 every single time you play it. Those are very similar difficulty levels at different speeds.
In part 2, Josh talks about 18-5 and 19-3 being his stretch goals. Thus, the chart of an elite competitor in the tournaments might look something like this. So what's left on the chart? Well, what about 19-4? Well, 19-4 is barely beatable only by the most elite DAS players such as Green Tea, who is a TGM Grandmaster, or Jonas Neubauer, the 7-time Classic Tetris World Champion. And even then, it's a real challenge because you're incredibly limited at what you can do with DAS at high heights on level 19 since the pieces lock nearly instantly to the stack and don't slide around like they do in modern Tetris. Becoming a pro DAS player essentially involves memorizing exactly how far each piece can move with fully charged DAS so you know what moves are even possible. And because the pieces spin with a bias towards the right, it's very hard to get stuff to the left. For example, on level 19, a line piece cannot move over a left well that is more than 6 rows high without something called a last second tap. Josh explains the last second tap in part 2 of his training regimen.
When you get to this second to last column, you're gonna manually tap it left one more time within that 6-frame window.
Basically, it takes advantage of the first horizontal movement from a tap being instantaneous by timing an additional tap exactly right to move the piece an extra column over. This especially advanced technique allowed him to eventually join the 19-4 club earlier this year. But last second taps are hard to pull off consistently. Even a successful one has its drawbacks, as it typically sacrifices the DAS of the next piece. And 19-4's garbage goes up 10 rows anyways. Moving a line piece here on anything other than the first piece is straight up impossible using DAS, even with a quick tap. So how do you overcome the limitations of DAS? Well, you bypass it altogether with manual tapping. Enter the world of hyper. Tapping. If you can tap your finger at more than 10 times a second, or 10 hertz, you can move the pieces to the side faster than DAS. For a long time, elite hypertappers were incredibly rare. After all, not only do you physically have to be able to do it, you also still have to have that deep knowledge and experience in how to stack. Aside from long-retired 1990 Nintendo World Champion Thor Åkerlund, Japanese Grandmaster Corion, and the mysterious Dan Z, who never competed in any major tournaments, there weren't many others who had ever done it at a high level. But in 2018, Joseph Saley burst into the scene, able to consistently tap at unprecedented speeds, and after practicing for hours nearly every day for a year, he won the 2018 World Championships in October in a triumphant rookie debut. Shortly afterwards, that December, Joseph got his first 19-4, able to zip pieces over to the side with ease. And I find it maybe a little bit representative of the difference in difficulty of playing 19-4 with hyper tapping versus DAS by comparing Joseph and Jonas's reactions to completing it.
There it is. Yes.
Let's go! Oh, are you f***ing kidding me? Get the f*** out of here with that. What's happening?
So alright, that would make then an approximate chart for hyper tappers and maybe the best of the best DAS players. But there was still one stage that no one had ever recorded themselves beating, 19.5. At a staggering 12 lines of garbage, 19.5 is so frustrating to attempt that most people don't even bother trying. It had just been considered virtually impossible since the game came out in 1989. Maybe feasible with a perfect board and perfect moves, but who was going to sit down and do that? Myself and many others thought Joseph was going to be the first one to crack it, but after a few sporadic attempts, he appeared to lose interest. Thor Åkerlund might have gotten it way back in the day, but without any video, it's impossible to know for sure if or how he would have done it. By 2019, however, a new generation of hypertappers had emerged onto the scene. The online tournament Classic Tetris Monthly had a rapid climb in talent level, hosting rising tapping stars such as Nenu and Richard, who would eventually win monthly titles, and PMYA, who actually made it significantly far into a 19.5 attempt before misdropping a piece at the most unfortunate of moments. And then, right before the 2019 World Championships, I was researching and gathering information on new competitors for my preview video. A hyper tapper by the name of Mark had just won the Germany qualifier to win a free trip and a guaranteed spot in the World Championships in Portland. And when I looked at his YouTube channel, to my shock, he had just put up a video of himself completing 19.5, which to this day still has less than 300 views. After years of people wondering if this would ever be possible, it felt like looking at a straight up miracle.
Ich bin jetzt der erste Mensch weltweit, der B, wahrscheinlich, ich gehe mal davon aus. Ich weiß es nicht, vielleicht hat es jemand geschafft. Aber ich glaube, ich bin der erste Mensch auf der Welt, der jetzt B-Modus 19.5 geschafft hat.
He was right! 29 years and 10 months after the game was originally released, this was indeed the first successful 19.5 ever captured on video. So, I called him up to ask him about this crazy achievement.
How long did it take you to beat NTSC 19.5?
I will give you a short answer and after that a little bit of story.
Okay.
The short answer is 20 minutes.
20 minutes? What? Well, it would only be fitting of someone like Mark.
How did you originally get involved in NES Tetris?
I played a little bit of Tetris, of NES Tetris actually, as a little kid, but I think like everyone I got involved in competitive NES Tetris with YouTube videos, but not the Boom Tetris for Jeff video. I just got the normal CTWC videos in my recommendations that kind of snowballed into what it is now for me. I seriously started, I would say, a month before CTWC Germany 2018. Before that I played just a little bit for fun.
Unfortunately, Mark didn't show up to the qualifying stations in 2018 until the day was almost over.
I knew it too late, so I came 50 minutes before end of qualifiers and I saw the CTWC Germany.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can try to make some scores, but I didn't make it in because I was just too late.
Well, I mean, you took matters in your own hands and you're like, next year,
Yes,
you just wait.
Exactly.
After being inspired at the 2018 Germany tournament, Mark practiced hard for next year's event by playing on a PAL console local to his region, only to find out at the last minute that instead of PAL, the tournament would be on NTSC like it is in the World Championships. Despite having to adjust to the new speeds practically on the fly, Mark still managed to win.
How long have you been playing NTSC Tetris?
3 days.
3 days.
So how exactly did Mark beat 19.5?
The story about that is like, I tried B-Mode 19.4 for about 1 hour, but I couldn't finish it. After that I went on my Discord server and I asked the people like, how many people ever beaten B-Mode 19.4, and they told me like this guy and this guy, and I was like, and what about 19.5? How many people beat that? And the people on my server told me like no one has officially beaten it and it's kinda impossible and more like a meme thing or something. And yeah, I took that as a challenge. The next day I tried for like 20 minutes and I just got it after 20 minutes. Very important part, maybe even the most important, is the very first block. If you start a new game, you can like move the first block around a little bit before it will start to fall. The first block is pretty much free, you can place it anywhere. You can't get very much blocks to the left. The best thing you want to do is you want to place the first block on the left. The best case is if you have like on the far left, on the first column, like a hole, and you can fill this hole with the first block. So the first block should be like an eyepiece or in J-piece. You can see after I put that J-piece into this hole, the top left side is completely filled up. And I was very lucky about the board because on the right side there was also a little bit filled out with blocks. After the first block, I just had to place the blocks in the middle of the playing field. And after you burned the solid filled left side down, I think the most important block after that is an L block. Because if you have a hole on the left that is really high, you won't be able to get like a long bar into this hole. So you need an L piece to place it flat on the left, but still get like on the L piece this little thing into the hole on the left. After you did that, you should be burned down enough to just play normally or relatively normally and do flat and clever burning.
Where can the audience watch more of your play?
Obviously on my YouTube channel, I upload all my PBs. I'm planning on starting to stream very soon on Twitch, of course. That's where you can watch me play.
So that's how 19.5 was finally conquered. But shortly after our interview, Mark contacted me to let me know that another player, incredibly, had also completed 19.5, a young tapper named Jake. And incredibly, he had managed to do it a staggering 6 times. So who exactly was this Jake? I reached out to talk to him as well, and eventually he would reveal a final clue that explained how 19.5 needed to be approached.
My name is Jake. I'm 14 years old. I got into NES Tetris in February of 2018. At that time, Puyo Puyo Tetris was releasing for PC, and I was sort of just interested in a lot of Tetris at the time. And I had just done some research on the NWC 1990. So I'd already known about Thor Ackerland, so I got sort of interested in classic Tetris. I played DAS for about the first 4 or 5 months, and once I'd maxed out, I felt like I had sort of reached a limit. I couldn't play aggressive enough to get anything higher than what I'd already had. I saw a video of Richard playing level 29 on the Tetris Reddit, and I thought, yeah, I remember seeing Thor do that. I should try to do that. Maybe I'd be able to play a little higher. So I took a bunch of time to learn that, and it worked out in the end.
Jake gained widespread recognition when he won his first major tournament at Tetris Canada 2019.
I feel like that was a pretty big moment for me, because I was never really sure if I was even good at classic Tetris in any way. But by going to CTWC Canada and actually performing well under like sort of pressure, I sort of felt like a little more confident that I knew what I was doing.
So how long did it take for you to beat 19.5?
What's funny about that is it only really took about 20 minutes.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the thing about 19.5, it isn't as hard as you'd expect it to be.
The crazy thing is that Mark gave the exact same answer.
Really?
He said about 20 minutes.
Yeah, that... Because it really didn't take that long. The fact that he gave the same answer, that's insane.
Like the exact same amount of minutes too. That is hilarious. That was not planned at all.
Just saying, I'm not coming to this with a script. That's totally genuine there.
So what was Jake's experience like with the infamous 19.5?
I think there's a line of code in the game that makes the top left corner of the board always empty. And that's really annoying for 19.5 because it's hard to get anything over there.
Jake wasn't being superstitious here, he's actually right. 2-time world finalist Alex Kerr discovered the quirk while working on a task project, and documented it on his user page for the Tetris Wiki. The game's code will always inadvertently delete any garbage in the upper leftmost square on B-type. So it appears that Mark's strategy of immediately solving the left may not just be a potential solution, but a necessary one. There was a reason Jake, who would eventually win 2 monthly titles, had beaten 19.5 6 times. In addition to blazingly fast tapping, he had also figured out the reliable method for success.
So the biggest help on 19.5 is having a board generated that already has the left mostly built out, and it only needs 1 piece. And if you get that piece as your first one, you have like a big delay where you can just move the piece over there. And then you can just sort of clear on the right, and then it's only 19.4 height at that point.
There was a moment about 2/3 of the way through where you seemingly had it cleared and then you misdropped a T piece.
Yeah, okay. So there's a reason why that happened. I was in a Discord call with a few friends in CTM, and they made me laugh, and that's the biggest trouble for a hyper tapper, I'd say. Your whole arm just shuts down. There's